I'm angry. The whole involuntary manslaughter when he very clearly murdered my son.
Only on Fox 23, a Green Country family heartbroken after the man who killed their son more than 2 years ago accepted a plea deal that could let him out of prison in 10 years or less.
Braden Collins' charred remains were found in a burned out car in rural Cherokee County back in 2021. An autopsy showed he was shot in the back of the head. Fox 23 weekend anchor Rick Marinon is live at the federal courthouse in Muskogee. He's the only reporter in court today with the family. Rick, so many of them are heartbroken, shocked, and upset by what played out.
So many emotions. This all took place on the 4th floor this morning here in Muskogee. The killer, Kyajon Pritchett, mainly stared at the ground at times when it was time for Collins' parents to speak. If he had ever looked up or over to the side at times, he would have seen two people glaring at him for not only what has happened, but for what is still happening. Jenny Bump and Jonathan Collins say court was in session Tuesday at the federal courthouse in Muskogee, but they didn't get justice in the death of their son, Braden.
This deal from the get-go was not okay.
At times, Bump and Collins glared at Kyajon Pritchett. They held back what is more than 2 years of anger, loss, and frustration for the man who accepted a plea deal in Braden's death. What has this been like?
Hell. Yeah. A nightmare.
After pleading guilty to involuntary manslaughter, Pritchett said in court he picked up Collins on the side of a rural road after car trouble. Pritchett said Collins freaked out about the route they were taking and the two fought. Eventually, Pritchett said there was a fight over a gun and Pritchett shot Collins in self-defense.
My son was shot in the bottom back right side of his head. If my son was a passenger in his vehicle and they were fighting over this gun, there's no way he could have shot him in that spot on accident.
Bump took the stand and said the autopsy shows her son was murdered and the entry wound was not consistent with Pritchett's story. She also said the plea deal did not take into account the fact that Pritchett burned Braden's body afterwards. The plea deal could mean Pritchett only spends 10 years maximum behind bars. And the judge advised Collins' parents they could take the stand again next year when a sentence is handed down to insist the plea deal be struck down.
I think they're tired of the case. Ready to be done.
Braden's parents, friends, and family all wore shirts asking, when is murder involuntary, in reference to Pritchett pleading guilty to involuntary manslaughter. All of them feel the McGirt decision requiring crimes committed in Indian country by those with tribal heritage to be prosecuted on the federal or tribal level is why a plea deal was agreed to. The state was handling the case and then Pritchett's tribal heritage was discovered. Bump and Collins feel federal prosecutors are trying to get a case they never really cared about over and done with.
Had he been out and the state took this, absolutely he would have gotten, so it would have already been almost done if not done, and he would have gotten, I think it would have gotten life.
I reached out to the U.S. Attorney's Office of Eastern Oklahoma, who are the federal prosecutors in this case. Last month, when we found out a plea deal was in the works, we are told when a case is going through proceedings, they will not comment. They will only comment once things have been completed. Things are not complete. There will be a sentencing hearing early next year. And then after that, depending on how the judge decides, we could get some answers to our questions as to how this came about. Live in Muskogee, covering news that matters, I'm Rick Marinon, Fox 23 News.